because whatever we want to judge about somebody else in the flesh, I guarantee you each of us has either just recently overcome something or also has something going on that we're trying to overcome, right? And so we're not going to count one as being better or worse than another, right? And we're going to recognize, have eyes to see how this could happen and not judge them to just be full of rebellion in the sense of, screw you.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
We're not going to take on the mindset of the church that says, well, it's just something they choose. It's not that simple. It's much more complicated. I think we did the Bible study using Jeremiah as a reference. Jeremiah didn't choose to be claustrophobic. He just finds he's experiencing something, right? Mm-hmm. So it's not an intellectual choice that people go through. It's something they feel because of something they've encountered in the world that come against them that wasn't born from God. Right? And so they have a compelling feeling inside of them. Yeah. It isn't an intellectual choice. Okay? Like the claustrophobic thing. And this can upset people, but I'll just say it, you don't have to agree with this. I was born claustrophobic. There's a difference between being created one way and being born a way. Right. I don't know if you guys seen babies that are born way in advance and that are preemies. They're little real people. They have heads and brains and hands. Listen, they have thoughts. And they encounter stimuli. And they're able to formulate thoughts and consider and think on things, right? And so there's a big difference between being created a way and being born a way. Because while you got 9 months in the belly, you can be exposed to something that could, even in that place, mess up your thinking, right? Yeah. If you play music, it's a proven scientific fact that music impacts the fetus, the baby inside of the womb. The baby is able to experience something. It's a proven fact that the baby can experience things that the mother is experiencing, right? It can have an impact. When my mom was pregnant with me, I was born claustrophobic. As early as I could remember, I was just claustrophobic, and I never knew why. Now, I know God didn't create me claustrophobic, but I can tell you what, from as early as I can remember, I got into a tight space. I was going to freak out. And I didn't know why it was there or what it was. I just feel it. It wasn't an intellectual choice. I didn't say, well, I guess I'll be claustrophobic. Let's go with that. It was just it was a feeling that came against me from the earliest I could remember. Then one day, I'm like 12, 13, 14 years old. I'm flipping through the family album. Just, you know how you have the family albums? Right. And I get to my mom, she's pregnant, and she has this stretchy band over her stomach that is stretched over her fully extended 9-month belly. And then you could see it pressing in on her belly. And immediately, it hit me. And I said, who are you pregnant with? And she's like, oh, you. When I was pregnant with you, I think she fell off my dad's motorcycle and cracked some ribs. She somehow cracked some ribs in like month 8 or 9, and they stuck this stretchy band on her stomach that pressed in big time on her stomach while she was pregnant with me. That impacted me.
Oh, yeah.
I felt pressed in on. And so something was able to impact my heart with fear even when I was in the womb. Okay? Now, that caused me to be born claustrophobic. Not created claustrophobic, but having been exposed to stimuli that made me claustrophobic, right? Yeah. Now, so people can have experiences like that, or they can have an experience when they're very young, right? It doesn't have to be similar to that. It can also be when they're very young. That something has come against them that isn't true, that isn't born of God. They could have an experience where they feel something, and their heart makes a conclusion about what they feel, and then their heart runs with it like it's the truth. And it becomes their truth, but not the truth. Yeah. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Right? So the church could go a long ways in dealing with people from that foundation. understanding the bondage that can come against a person, why it could come against a person, not trying to despise them. You can connect with them on a level that makes sense to them, and that's the best way for them to experience freedom. Because if you come to a person and act like they're just making an intellectual choice, but they're experiencing a very real feeling, your intellectual choice talk immediately sounds like nonsense to them.
That's right.
And they immediately think you don't know what you're talking about anything.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And so after that, anything you say is blah, blah, blah. Blah, 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 blah. Right?
Yep.
Now, you can make a choice to abstain from sexual intercourse, but you can't make a choice about what you feel.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
And so if we could engage from that foundation, they'd be more apt to hear. And if hearing, we know that freedom comes.
Yeah.
Right? I'm actually not claustrophobic anymore. I don't actually know when I got set free. I just know that I don't feel it anymore. Right? And it didn't even occur to me till I went and picked up Jeremiah from the airport, and we were going to get on the elevator, and he's like, "Oh, brother, you don't remember? I can't get on the elevator."
No.
And I was like, "What do you mean you can't get on the elevator?" He's all, "Oh, I'm claustrophobic, man." And all of a sudden it hit me that it doesn't bother me at all to get in the elevator anymore.
Well, sometimes understanding sets you free from what you're in bondage to. Not sometimes, a lot.
A lot.
A lot.
Yes.
Exactly. I used to get on the elevator and be afraid if that thing were to stop.
Yeah.
Like in between the floors. And like if I was stuck on that thing. Every time I got on an elevator, I used to think this thing could stop. And I would like immediately be scanning the thing like a soldier, thinking, can I bust open the top and climb out the top? Can I kick open the doors? And it just at some point it stopped impacting me. And I didn't realize it until I picked up Jeremiah. And all of a sudden I thought, oh, I don't even care. I rode up the elevator on the way here and I didn't even think about that.
Right.
Right? I didn't even realize that I'd been set free. But I had a very real issue. Right? It wasn't like some small thing. When me and my brothers were wrestling and making the tents, houses, you know how you use the clothespin and you make the forts? We make the tents and we get to wrestling, and the moment a sheet or a blanket got put over my head, it was like the Incredible Hulk was born inside of me, and like a superhuman strength where I would just throw people off of me just to get out of that.
Yeah.
Right?
I will say this, though.